When you wake up in the morning, the very first battle you face is not with traffic, deadlines, or even the people around you. It is with your own mind. Before you've spoken to another soul, before you've opened your phone or answered an email, there is already a conversation happening inside of you. That's why the first thing you must declare every single morning is this: I am in control of my mind. Because if you don't take charge of your thoughts, they will take charge of you. Think about it. The human mind is the most powerful engine God has given us, and yet it is also the most unruly when left unattended, left unchecked. It doesn't drift toward peace, it drifts toward worry. It doesn't automatically settle on truth, it gravitates toward doubt, fear, and negativity. If you don't wake up and claim ownership of your mental space, then everything around you, the news cycle, social media, even the moods of the people you encounter, will hijack that space and fill it with whatever it pleases. That's why mastery begins not with what you do, but with what you allow yourself to think. Now, controlling your mind doesn't mean pretending bad things don't exist. It doesn't mean ignoring hardship or living in denial. No. True control means refusing to let those things dictate your inner reality. It means standing guard at the gates of your thoughts and deciding what enters and what gets dismissed. Just as you wouldn't let a stranger walk into your home and rearrange your furniture, why would you let uninvited thoughts barge into your head and rearrange your peace? That's your house. That's your domain. You decide what belongs there. Psychologists tell us that most of our daily patterns are shaped by what we repeatedly focus on. If you think in cycles of fear, you live in cycles of fear. If you think in cycles of scarcity, you live in cycles of scarcity. But the same principle works in your favor. If you think in cycles of possibility, you live in cycles of possibility. If you choose to dwell on gratitude, confidence, and vision, then your actions will align with that mental framework. In other words, whatever dominates your thoughts eventually governs your steps. Philosophers have echoed this truth for centuries. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic, once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Centuries later, modern neuroscience confirms the same principle. Repeated thoughts rewire the brain, carving out new pathways that strengthen certain emotions and weaken others. What you choose to think literally reshapes who you are becoming. So when you wake up and affirm, "I am in control of my mind," you're not just making a spiritual statement. You're making a neurological one. You are reminding yourself that you are not a prisoner of automatic thinking, you are the architect of it. But here's the catch. Control is not automatic. It requires intention. You don't drift into mastery, you decide into mastery. That's why the morning is so crucial. If you don't anchor your thoughts before the day begins, the storms of the day will do it for you. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly anger dictates your morning. A stressful email shows up in your inbox when anxiety takes the wheel. But when you've already declared, "I am in control of my mind," you approach those moments differently. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond deliberately. Instead of being ruled by the situation, you rule over your state of being. This is the heart of wisdom, not letting life control your mood, but letting your mindset control how you engage with life. Imagine the difference it makes when you walk into a difficult meeting, not as a slave to your nervousness, but as a master of your composure. Imagine what happens when you enter your day, not weighted by yesterday's failures, but focused on today's opportunities. That difference begins the moment you claim sovereignty over your thoughts. So tomorrow morning, before you check the headlines, before you check the notifications, before you let the noise of the world invade your space, pause and tell yourself, I am in control of my mind. Say it until you believe it. Say it until it echoes louder than fear. Say it until your actions reflect it. Because when you master your thoughts, you master your life. And let me leave you with this. If your mind is the steering wheel of your life, then whoever controls your thoughts controls your direction. Make sure it's you. If your thoughts shape your inner world, then your words shape the world you walk into. That's why the second thing you must tell yourself every morning is this: my words shape my world. Because the moment you speak, you set something in motion. Your words are not just sounds leaving your mouth. They are seeds planted into the soil of your reality. What you declare today has a way of showing up in the atmosphere tomorrow. Most people underestimate this. They treat words like they're disposable, as if a careless statement disappears after it's spoken. But the truth is, words linger. They settle in the heart, they echo in the mind, they influence behavior, and they set the tone for relationships. Think back on your own life. Isn't it true that the most defining moments often trace back to words someone spoke? Whether it was encouragement that lifted you or criticism that cut you down. That's because words don't evaporate, they take root. And the same applies to what you speak over yourself. When you wake up and declare, I can't do this, today is going to be awful, nothing ever works out for me, you've already prophesied defeat before you've even stepped out of bed. On the other hand, when you say, I am prepared, I am capable, I am walking into opportunities today, you've written a completely different script for how your day unfolds. One prepares your mind for collapse. The other prepares your spirit for courage. The difference isn't in the circumstances. It's in the words you've chosen to plant in the soil of your mind. There's a profound psychological reality here. Cognitive science tells us that language doesn't just describe reality. It actively constructs it. The words you use frame how your brain interprets experiences. If you label a setback as failure, your mind responds with despair. But if you label the same setback as training, your mind responds with determination. The situation hasn't changed, the word has. And because the word has changed, your internal response has changed, and therefore your outward actions shift. That is the power of language. Philosophers have long recognized this. Ludwig Wittgenstein famously said, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." In other words, the way you speak about life sets the boundaries of what you believe is possible in life. If your words are small, your world will feel small. If your words are expansive, your world will expand with them. And this is not just philosophical. It's deeply practical. Athletes know this. Leaders know this. Spiritual teachers know this. That's why affirmations, declarations, and spoken truths are not clichés. They are strategies for shaping destiny. But here's where many people get it wrong. They think words are just about self-talk. They forget that words also build environments. The way you speak to others creates the atmosphere you live in. If you are constantly critical, sarcastic, or negative, Don't be surprised when your relationships feel heavy and draining. You've constructed that atmosphere with your words. But if you intentionally speak encouragement, gratitude, and vision, you create an environment where possibility breathes and people want to rise higher. In other words, your words don't just shape your inner world, they shape the community around you. That's why the morning is so crucial. The first words you speak at the start of your day act like a compass, pointing you in a particular direction. If the first thing out of your mouth is a complaint, your spirit begins to bend toward frustration. If the first thing out of your mouth is gratitude, your spirit bends toward joy. That's why you must wake up and consciously declare, "My words shape my world." Because when you say it, you remind yourself to choose words that align with the life you're trying to build. Let's make this practical. Tomorrow morning, before you say anything else, speak 3 powerful things over yourself. Say, "I am alive for a purpose. I am equipped for what I face. And I am walking in growth today." Simple statements, yes, but repeated consistently, they set the atmosphere for action. Don't wait until life feels perfect to speak those words. Because if you wait for perfection, you'll never speak them. Speak them now, even in imperfection. And watch how your words begin to move you into alignment with the life you want. Because here's the truth. You cannot speak defeat all morning and expect victory all day. You cannot speak fear in private and expect courage in public. You cannot speak small and live large. Your words and your world are connected. So every morning, remind yourself that what you say today is building the reality you will walk into tomorrow. And never forget this, your words are architects. Make sure they are building a future you actually want to live in. If your mind is the battlefield and your words are the weapons, then your energy is the territory you must protect. That's why the third thing you need to tell yourself every morning is this: I am responsible for my energy. Because while you can't control everything that happens to you, you can control how much of yourself you give to it. Energy is like currency. Spend it foolishly, and you end up bankrupt. Spend it wisely, and you invest in a life of focus, peace, and purpose. Most people go through the day leaking energy without even realizing it. They let every irritation, every negative comment, every inconvenient situation pull a little more strength out of them until they're drained before the afternoon even arrives. And here's the problem. When you let everything outside of you determine the condition of what's inside you, you're giving away your power. You're essentially saying, my joy, my focus, my peace, it's all up for grabs to whoever or whatever crosses my path today. But when you wake up and declare, I am responsible for my energy, you take that power back. You say, no, I decide what I carry. I decide what I allow in. I decide what I release. Psychology calls this locus of control, the belief about whether your life is shaped by external circumstances or internal choices. People with an external locus of control live in reaction mode, always at the mercy of situations. But those with an internal locus of control understand that while they can't control the weather, the traffic, or the economy, they can control their perspective, their effort, and their emotional response. And the people who live with this internal responsibility are the ones who lead, the ones who rise, the ones who grow. Think of it this way. When your energy is the fuel for your day, if you let gossip, negativity, or anxiety siphon it out of your tank, you won't have enough left for the things that truly matter. Your goals, your relationships, your calling. That's why some people feel exhausted without even doing anything physically demanding. It's not their body that's drained. It's their energy being robbed by the weight of what they've chosen to focus on. Protecting your energy is not about isolation. It's about stewardship. It's about recognizing that the way you show up for life is directly tied to what you've allowed to pull from you. Now, this doesn't mean you avoid every challenge or ignore every problem. Life will present difficulties that demand your attention. But the difference between thriving and burning out is knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Not every argument needs your participation. Not every negative opinion deserves your response. Not every inconvenience is worth your peace. When you know that, you conserve strength for what actually moves your life forward. Spiritually speaking, this is also about alignment. You weren't created to carry everything. You were created to carry purpose. And when you waste your energy trying to fight battles that aren't yours, you end up too weak to win the battles that are. But when you guard your energy, you position yourself to pour it into the things that bring life vision, creativity, relationships, service, and growth. That's how you live not just reactively, but intentionally. And here's something to remember. Your energy doesn't just affect you. It affects everyone around you. Walk into a room heavy with bitterness, and the room feels it. Walk into a room grounded in peace, and the room feels that too. The energy you carry sets the atmosphere. This is why being responsible for your energy is not just personal. It's communal. Your family feels it. Your coworkers feel it. Your friends feel it. What you allow to rule inside of you will always overflow into the spaces you touch. So every morning, remind yourself, I am responsible for my energy. Say it until you start choosing peace over pettiness, purpose over distraction, and focus over frenzy. Say it until you begin to notice how much stronger you feel when you stop giving energy to things that don't deserve it. Say it until you reclaim the ability to walk through a storm without letting the storm walk through you. Because at the end of the day, no one else is accountable for how you show up but you. Your energy is your responsibility. Guard it, guide it, and give it only to what matters. And here's the thought I want you to carry with you. If you don't protect your energy, someone else will waste it for you. By the time you've taken responsibility for your mind, your words, and your energy, there's one more truth you must carry into the day. Every challenge is training me for greater strength. Because let's be honest, life is not going to spare you from difficulty. Adversity doesn't ask for permission before it shows up at your door. But what you say to yourself about those challenges determines whether they break you or build you. And when you wake up every morning, reminding yourself that every obstacle is shaping you, preparing you, training you, then what once felt like punishment begins to feel like preparation. The reality is, growth is never comfortable. Strength is never developed in ease. Muscles don't grow by resting, they grow by resistance. And in the same way, the muscles of your character, your patience, your resilience, your faith, they all grow in response to resistance. That's why challenges are not the enemy. They are the gymnasium of your soul. They are the environment where you are stretched, refined, and transformed into someone greater than you were yesterday. Think about the people you admire most, whether leaders, thinkers, athletes, or spiritual figures. None of them became who they are by living a life free of difficulty. Their greatness was forged in the fires of trial. They became disciplined, wise, courageous, and resourceful precisely because they faced seasons of pain, disappointment, and struggle. If you remove the adversity, you remove the development, which means the very thing you are tempted to despise might be the very thing that is shaping you into the person you were meant to become. Philosophically, this is what the ancients understood as the paradox of suffering. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body. And centuries later, modern psychology affirms it. Psychologists speak of post-traumatic growth, the phenomenon where individuals, after facing hardship, don't just survive, but emerge with greater resilience, deeper appreciation for life, and a stronger sense of purpose. In other words, the very thing that feels like it's meant to crush you often becomes the catalyst that elevates you. But here's the key. That transformation is not automatic. Not everyone who goes through difficulty comes out stronger. Some come out bitter, defeated, or stuck. The difference lies in perspective. If you believe your challenge is meaningless, you will resent it. If you believe it is training you, you will embrace it. That's why each morning you must declare to yourself, every challenge is training me for greater strength. It reframes your suffering from something destructive to something constructive. When you take on this perspective, even the small frustrations of the day begin to serve a higher purpose. The coworker who tests your patience becomes training for self-control. The project that feels overwhelming becomes training for perseverance. The setback that disappoints you becomes training for resilience. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes part of your development. And suddenly, instead of asking, "Why me?" you start asking, "What is this preparing me for?" That single shift changes everything. Spiritually, this truth runs even deeper. Throughout history, faith has taught that trials are not random. They are instruments in the hands of God, shaping us into vessels of greater purpose. The storm you're facing is not meant to drown you. It's meant to teach you how to stand in the waves. The fire is not meant to consume you. It's meant to refine the gold within you. When you wake up and remind yourself of this, you no longer fear the challenge. You face it with a quiet confidence that it is molding you into the person you were destined to become. Now, let's be real. This doesn't make the challenge easier. Pain is still painful. Setbacks still sting. But strength is not the absence of struggle. It is the ability to endure and rise through it. And when you carry that mindset, you stop shrinking in the face of adversity and start expanding within it. You recognize that your scars don't disqualify you. They certify you. They are evidence that you've been trained, tested, and prepared for greater battles ahead. So tomorrow, when life confronts you with resistance, whether big or small, don't run from it. Don't curse it. Stand tall and remind yourself, this is training me. Because the very thing that seems to be standing against, you may be the very thing equipping you. And let me leave you with this. The weight you're carrying today is not designed to crush you. It's designed to build you. Don't waste the training.